You all must be, guessing as to where am I. You know, you must be looking at the surroundings. Where I'm actually sitting, and trying to communicate with you. You must be thinking that how lucky I am. Actually, you're quite right. I'm very, very lucky that I'm sitting in one of the khads that we call them in Himachal and being able to speak to all of you. I must first of all thank my parents and my grandparents who actually managed this spot for me. They worked hard, they ensured that I studied, and I inherited the property from my parents. My parents, surely inherited from my grandfather. Beyond grandfather, I don't remember, but surely enough, my grandfather was the real owner of this particular property where I'm currently sitting and talking to all of you. How lucky I am. I wish everyone was that lucky. But is it important that we should be lucky, or there should be, the next generation, or maybe the next generation who should be lucky? If my grandparents made me lucky, I think I owe to my grandchildren a same kind of, luck, so that they are also able to enjoy the way I'm enjoying this particular weather and also the environment that I'm currently living in. Friends, this is where I want to start, and this is where I would like to actually have a long, detailed discussion with all of you. Don't you think our grandchildren deserve this from us? And the question that I think most of us have to ask ourselves is, are we doing this to our grandchildren? Are they going to be as lucky as we are? I don't know. That sufficient efforts are being made by all of us, the grandfathers, to ensure that our grandchildren have this kind of a luck. So, what do we do? Is that something, a point of discussion? I don't think it's a point of discussion. It's actually a point of action. We all need to do is, take action on this particular point before it becomes very, very late. Are we not lucky that we are going to have on a regular basis an organic food that we grow ourselves over here? Are we going to leave that for our children? I don't know. Will things be the same that they are at the moment? I'm not too sure unless we work towards it. Similarly, are we going to leave the kind of environment that we are currently enjoying over here? I'm not too sure. The way things are depleting, the way the things are deteriorating, I don't think we would be able to actually leave this kind of environment for us. Everything is looking very different from what it used to look like when I was a child. My duty, therefore, is to look at each of these aspects of life so that I'm able to retain, at least retain, if not improve, whatever we currently have. And this duty lies with all the grandparents. Parents, I'm not including because I think they're all grown up and they would surely be looking at some of these things. But we as grandfathers or grandparents need to look at some of these aspects very, very closely. I'm going to be talking to all of you, sharing my views as to what can we do, or what can I do, or what am I doing to be able to do that to my grandchildren, so that I leave this kind of a legacy for my grandchildren. I'm going to share what I'm doing. What I'm going to share also is which are these areas which we need to consider. And I'm going to talk about each of these subjects in fairly good details in my subsequent episodes. The first and the most, as I said, is environment. Are we leaving the same environment that we inherited from our grandparents? I think we don't really need to say that surely we are not, but I think we can all understand that we are surely not leaving a similar environment for anybody. Today Look at the pollution levels. Now, you could be saying, why am I talking about, pollution levels sitting in Himachal? But that's something we need to also start thinking about. If cities are facing this particular problem of pollution, don't you think one day a similar problem is going to happen, in Himachal also? Isn't that going to carry forward to some of these places also? Yes, it will. And therefore, what are we doing about it? Are we letting it spoil, depleted, degraded, the way it is currently doing? So we have a certain responsibility. We need to ensure that we continue to maintain the climatic conditions, that we currently live in, and not let it spoil further. So second in my mind is the lifestyle. Why is lifestyle so important? Isn't that lifestyle which we are currently leading helping us to remain healthy? Is it not helping us to be, you know, keeping our well being so good? It is just that we have inherited these from our grandparents. They ensured that we get up early in the morning, we go for a morning walk, we do exercise, then we go for work, we ensure that we are mobile even while we are at work. Are we not someone who's coming back after the day, getting back to our houses, helping the family to do the small things that normally are expected from the husbands? Are we not ensuring that we go for an evening walk so that we are able to digest our food? Basically, we are trying to remain as mobile as possible so that we do not pick up extra weight, so that we are able to prevent obesity. Now, how important does it become? Therefore, I think your lifestyle is very, very critical. And one of the very, very important thing which I think strikes all of us is that our lifestyles are also completely based on as to how we are able to, have our food and what are the kind of food habits that we have. While I would surely talk about, the food habits and how does it help, to remain healthy in my future episodes, but just to touch upon it, isn't that it critical that we are able to get our grandchildren to have food which was always a healthy option for all of us? Isn't that important that our children also have a similar food that probably we used to have, which always kept us healthy? It is important. Are we able to really prevent our children from consuming non-healthy foods that are being consumed? Third thing that I would like to talk about is the total education. And education, I'm not limiting to what we get from our studies. It is not limited to only what we study in our books, what we study in our school books. More critical, I think education is what we learn from our environment by traveling to places, what we learn from each other while we are playing. There are lots and lots of things which become a part of our education. And a key thing to that is knowledge. We had an opportunity to actually have all of this, you know, in the environment that we lived in. My question, therefore, to all of you: are we able to, or are our children, grandchildren, able to have the kind of education that we could have? I think today education is limited to only the schools and in the house when we are studying for our exams. I think it's slightly being unlucky. So, what are we doing about it? Once again, we'll talk about it as we go along, in our next episodes. Yeah. Another, important point, which I think is our uh, behavior. Are we finding that our grandchildren are able to behave exactly the way, or are they better than what we were when we were children? I think there is some kind of depletion there also. What is it that one is able to really see? I'm talking about, the general behaviors. Are children able to behave exactly the way that we could today? There is always anger that is something on the surface of most of the children at this point of time, which can be extremely dangerous. So therefore, is the behavior similar? Are we finding that the children are as polite to our elders, as we were? I think overall it needs a complete overhauling. I think the depletion is happening all around, and I find general behavior of individuals, I think to a large extent, depleting from what it used to be in our times. I don't blame anybody. I think it's all a creation of, the lifestyle which were being led by people. It's all created by environment. It may all come into one umbrella, but I think these are things which we need to really look at. Today, attitude is something which has started to be taught, in the schools, as to what is the kind of, attitude which most of the children should have. We keep talking about positive attitude, positive way of thinking, but all this came to us very, very naturally during our parenting, or our parents pass it on to us very, very easily. I think we learn from them. Are we passing on the same thing to our children? I don't know. I'm not too sure. We all need to really think about it and be honest about as to how can we transfer this positive attitude behaviors to our children. How can they start being, optimistic about things? We need to really ponder over it. We need to really think as to what is it that we can do. And I have suggestions, something which can help we all adopting, and therefore being able to pass it on to our grandchildren, so that they are, on a lot of these aspects, you know, probably behaving in the same manner, or, you know, living within that environment. Now, the last but not the least is relationships. The question that we need to ask ourselves is that, have we been able to pass on the kind of relationship that we have between each one of our friends and our relatives? Are we passing on the same to our grandchildren? Or have our grandchildren picked it up? I'm not too sure. Today, aren't the relationship restricted to only very limited people, be it friends, be it relatives, be it, even your own family? I think we have, from the time nuclear families have started, we have restricted it to a very, very less number of people. Is it a very positive sign? I'm not too sure, because I think a lot of learning comes from our friends, relatives, and, our parents. I still remember myself sharing my room with two of my other cousins, because I think the space was always an issue, but more than that, I had the willingness to accommodate more and more people into my life, which becomes very important, because there is a lot that we can learn from each other. And relatives or relationships, they make so much of a difference. I'm only touching it today, but I'm going to really dwell on this on a very wide, spectrum, so that we are able to really understand and be able to adopt it, so that we can pass it on to our grandchildren. The whole purpose of my this particular uh, communication is that let's all work together. Let this be some kind of a campaign. Let this be some kind of a moment. Let this be something which we do it for our grandchildren. It's important. And if we don't do it, nobody else will do it. We are all educated. We need only an awareness amongst ourselves. We need to, hand over this baton to our grandchildren. It's very important. Let all of us make that particular effort to make our children healthier, happy, and a great living together. Thank you so much.